students, welcome to our YouTube channel. As you know, we are discussing various theories. Today we will be discussing William Empson, who is related to new criticism, right? So William Empson, this picture in front of you is of William Empson. William Empson is a critic that is associated with new criticism. He is a critic as well as a poet who is widely influential for the practice of close reading of the literary text, the literary work, and the fundamental practice of close reading that is seen in the new criticism. Ibsen's critical work is largely concerned with the early and the pre-modern works that are there in the English canon. So we all know what is basically the tenets of new criticism. The new critic people were saying that you need to do a close analysis of the text that you are reading. You have to connect the dots that are there. You have to look at the form and the content. Both are important, but you do not have to focus on the exterior influences that are there. But the text per se is extremely important. So what Ibsen is saying, Ibsen said that there are various types of ambiguities in the text. The text is important, and he in his work, The 7 Types of Ambiguity, will talk about the 7 ambiguities that will enrich the reading process and helps the reader to pay even more focus on the text. There are about 7 to 8 famous works. They are written in front of you. First is 7 Types of Ambiguity that came out in 1930. It was published a lot of times and republished, but you have to remember the date 1930. If asked in the exam, you will write it 1930 only. These are the famous works, and this is the most famous work. William Empson is known for this work and the concepts of 7 ambiguity. 7 Types of Ambiguity in 1930, Face of the Buddha 1931, some versions of Pastoral 1935, The Gathering Storm 1940, The Structure of Complex Words 1951, Collected Poems 1956, again in 1962, and then in 1984. Then we have Milton's God in 1961. So these are the various works. You should pause the video, note them down because they are important. In match the following questions can be asked, and in greater detail the questions can be asked related to the works. The first being most important, we in this video are going to talk about the 7 types of ambiguity. But the question arises, what exactly is ambiguity? So this work, as you all know, was published in 1930, is a book that is organized around the 7 types of ambiguity that Ibsen finds is very essential and is always present in the poetry. He discusses various poetries, like he will discover the poetry of Hopkins, he will discover the sonnets of Shakespeare, and he will tell you that yes, there are ambiguities, and these ambiguities are not that bad, but this will help the reader to read the text even better. This will enrich the reading. It will help the reader to pay more focus on the things that are written on the text. The ambiguity or an ambiguity is represented as nothing but a puzzle to Ibsen. We have ambiguity when alternative views might be taken without sheer misreading. So it is not a misreading, but you have alternative views that can come into picture. For example, I'm trying to say something, but you think exactly opposite about it, while the other person is thinking exactly different. So you will have multiple views about a single statement. This will enrich the reading process even more, because every one of you will come and see and read the book or the poetry in a very different manner, in a very different light, right? So this will enrich the reading process and will help the reader read the work better. Ibsen reads the poetry as an exploration at conflicts within the author. So there can be conflicts with the author. The reader can read in a very different manner, and the author has written something else, but the reader interprets in a different manner. So there are ambiguities in the text, and these are the 7 ambiguities that he will discuss. He suggested that the words or the references in the poem are often ambiguous, and if you read the poem and the reference, it leads us to multiple meanings that can enrich the reader's appreciation of the work. Let us read the 7 types of ambiguity. So the first one is metaphor. Metaphor, as we all know, is the most simplest kind of figure of speech. What is a metaphor? When you compare two things with without the usage of as or like. So when you use as or like, it is simile, but when you do not use it, it is metaphor. So if I say she is a rose, right? So I'm directly comparing her to Rose. I'm not saying she is as pretty as Rose, right? I'm directly saying that she is a rose. So this is a metaphor. Metaphor, that is when two things are said to be alike which have different properties and they are compared. For example, this is often used when the metaphysical people were writing, metaphysical poets were writing, and the usage of conceits were there, right? So this concept is very similar to the metaphysical conceits. Two or more meanings. Now this is the second one. Two or more meanings are resolved into one. Ibsen considers this as using two different metaphors together. It is possible that two different metaphors are joined together. So here two different meanings are joined together. Then there is the third one, that is two ideas that are connected through the context can be given in one word simultaneously, which is otherwise called as pun as well, right? So it is often called as, sometimes you call it as paradox or pun. This is when two ideas, they are contradictory to one another, they are also joined in one single statement. So the reader can be, it is a very mind-boggling situation when you see two different situations, two different types of meanings. They are connected through one context, but different words are used. So two ideas that are connected through context. They have the same context, but they are given together having different opposite meanings to one another. Then we have the fourth type of ambiguity, when two or more meanings that do not agree but combine to make a clear, a complicated state of mind in the author. So what happens, maybe he's talking about few things, say he's talking about what do you mean by language, and he starts talking and he starts giving various examples of language, when do we need language, what are the characteristics of language, etc., etc. And maybe the two meanings are opposite to one another, or it is not creating a whole holistic view, or a proper intended meaning is not there, and he is not able to positionalize the things properly. So it is possible that abstract thoughts can create problem. So he was thinking something, then he start to give some another meaning to it, and this can create problem. So two or more meanings that do not agree but combine to make clear or a complicated state of mind is visible. Then we have the fifth ambiguity, when the author discovers his idea in the act of writing. So it is possible that while writing, the author discovers and rediscovers the idea. When the author discovers his idea in the act of writing, it is possible that he is writing something, and while writing in the flow only, he thinks that maybe this thing can also be incorporated, and he used that statement. So this can also create a different kind of texture that is seen in the poetry. This is also a kind of paradox. Then the sixth one, when a statement says nothing and the readers are forced to invent a statement of their own, most likely in conflict with that of the author. That is a concrete thought. So what can happen? Maybe the author was trying to say something else, but we are forcing ourselves to think exactly the opposite thing, right? So this can also create ambiguity. So author intended to say something very different. It is not aligning with what you are thinking. Maybe you are thinking extremely different about that same context. So for example, the author was saying that the girl was lying on the grass, on the green grass. So you interpreted it and using hyperbola that maybe the girl is compared to a snake because she is lying on the green grass. So this is your interpretation, and this can also cause ambiguity. Then the last one is when the two words that two words that within context are opposite that expose a fundamental division in the author's mind. So there can be fundamental division in the author's mind when two different words are used in the given context. So these are the 7 types of ambiguity, and in the first type of ambiguity, when discussing about metaphor, he gave the example of Shakespearean sonnets, right? When he was talking about the division in the mind of the writer, he started to talk about Hopkins' work. So there are different poetries that he will discuss in the book, and while discussing, he talks about these 7 ambiguities that are present, right? So this can create this can give a very different texture to the poem. Also, the reader will pay more focus on what is happening on the text, because according to the new critics, what is important? The text is important, right? So I hope you understood the things. If you have any doubt, you can ask me that in the comment section and I will surely reply to you. Thank you.